When a player discovers an ancient city for the first time, almost all of the attention is immediately drawn to the enormous structure standing at its center. It looks far too important to be an ordinary monument or a decorative part of the ruin. It has a massive rectangular frame, a perfectly symmetrical design, and it is built from reinforced deep slate, a unique material that cannot be found naturally anywhere else. Hello everyone, Travis here, and today we are going to talk about one of the craziest Minecraft theories. Because of this, most players assume that the structure must be some kind of inactive portal to an unknown dimension. But if it really is a portal, then we need to ask a much more important question. Why was an entire underground city built around it? Why is that city filled with a complex network designed to detect vibrations, trigger alarms, and summon one of the most powerful creatures in Minecraft? Maybe the real mystery is not where the ancient city builders intended to travel through this portal. Maybe they never intended to travel through it at all. Maybe the entire ancient city was created for the exact opposite reason, to stop something from coming through the portal and entering the overworld. To understand this theory, we first need to look closely at the city itself. The ancient city barely resembles a normal settlement. It is difficult to find anything that looks like an ordinary home, bedroom, farm, kitchen or workshop capable of supporting a large population. There are long streets, bridges, walls, towers, storage rooms and chests, but most of the architecture feels functional rather than residential. It does not look like a place where thousands of people lived ordinary lives. It looks more like a military base, a research facility, or a massive underground containment complex designed for one very specific purpose, and that purpose may have been protecting the structure at its center. Even the location of the city supports this possibility. Ancient cities are buried extremely deep underground, far below most other structures in Minecraft. If an ancient civilization wanted to use the central frame as a convergent portal for regular travel, building it at such an extreme depth would make very little sense. Reaching it would be difficult. There would be no natural light. Moving people and resources through layers of solid stone would require an incredible amount of work. A portal meant for frequent travel would be far more useful near the surface. But if the builders were trying to isolate a dangerous gateway, then the depth becomes an advantage. The huge amount of stone between the portal and the surface would serve as the first layer of containment. Even if something managed to emerge from the gateway, it would still have to escape from deep beneath the world before reaching forests, villages and other civilizations. In that case, the surrounding rock was the first line of defense. The city itself was the second, and the Skulk and the Warden were the final security system. But perhaps the strongest clue is the size of the central structure. It is far too large for a normal player, villager or any humanoid creature. A nether portal can be built relatively small because it only needs to transport creatures roughly the size of a person. The end portal found inside the stronghold is only designed for the player and other creatures of a similar scale. The structure inside the ancient city is much taller and wider than either of them. If it really was designed to transport a living creature, then that creature must have been much larger than a human. There are not many creatures in Minecraft that would actually require a doorway that large. The Warden is tall, but it emerges directly from the Skulk and has no reason to use a portal. The Wither is dangerous, but it is still much smaller than the ancient city frame. Ghasts are large, but they are connected to the Nether and do not explain anything about the city or the Skulk. There is only one creature whose size truly matches a gateway this enormous: the Ender Dragon. The dragon is so large that the ordinary end portal inside the stronghold would clearly be useless to it. That portal is designed for a player. The dragon could never physically fit through such a small opening, and yet, inside the end, we do not see any other large portal through which the dragon could leave its dimension. It circles the central island and remains trapped there, even after the player activates the exit portal. The dragon appears to be permanently confined to the end, but that does not necessarily mean it has always been trapped there. Perhaps another portal once existed, a gateway built specifically for a creature of its size. The other side may still be standing at the center of the ancient city. This would explain why the structure is so enormous. It was never designed for humans to walk through. It had to be large enough for the Ender Dragon. Perhaps the ancient builders created the portal themselves without fully understanding what they were connecting their world to. They may have been studying other dimensions, experimenting with teleportation and searching for new sources of energy and rare materials. Eventually, they discovered the end. At first, their expeditions may have seemed safe, Ancient explorers could have entered the dimension, studied the islands, gathered chorus fruit, collected unusual materials and observed the strange creatures living there. But the Ender Dragon represented a threat on an entirely different scale. It could destroy most blocks simply by flying through them, could move at incredible speed and attack with explosive dragon fireballs. Inside the open environment of the overworld without the limitations of the central end island, the dragon could have destroyed entire settlements. Its arrival on the surface would not have been a local disaster. It could have become a catastrophe for the entire world. Perhaps the portal was never fully opened. The ancient builders may have detected the dragon before it managed to cross over. They realized that the creature was searching for a way out, and they immediately shut the gateway down. But simply deactivating it might not have been enough. Once the connections between the dimensions had been established, there may have been a danger that the portal could eventually be reopened from the other side. Because of that, the builders could not simply walk away and forget about it. They needed to make sure it would never activate again. That may be why they constructed the ancient city around it. The city was not built as a magnificent underground capital. It was the result of a massive containment operation. The central structure was surrounded by observation posts, storage areas, fortified passages and multiple defensive lines. Reinforced deepslate may have been created specifically for this purpose. Unlike obsidian, ancient debris or other incredibly strong materials, reinforced deepslate cannot be connected in survival mode. It does not simply take a long time to mine. The player cannot obtain it at all. That feels like a deliberate clue. Perhaps reinforced deepslate is not merely strong building material. Maybe it was designed to contain the energy of the portal, preventing it from being broken, repaired, or accidentally reactivated. The massive frame may still exist because destroying it was impossible. Instead, the ancient builders reinforced it, sealed it, and built an entire security complex around it. Different parts of the city may once have served different purposes. Some buildings could have housed researchers who studied the gateway. Others may have been used by soldiers, engineers, and workers responsible for maintaining the containment system. But over time, keeping a large population near the portal may have become too dangerous. One mistake could have reopened the connection. The research facility slowly became a quarantine zone, and eventually it was abandoned completely. But the ancient builders could not simply leave and hope that nobody would ever discover the portal. They needed a security system that would continue functioning even after their civilization disappeared. That system may have been the Skulk. Skulk can detect vibrations, transmit signals, and spread by absorbing the energy released when living creatures die. If we think of it as a part of a security network, its properties seem almost perfectly designed for the job. Skulk sensors detect footsteps, jumps, blocks being placed or destroyed, chests being opened, items hitting the ground, and many other disturbances. Skulk shriekers act like alarms. They do not summon the Warden immediately. Instead, they gradually increase the level of danger after repeated activations. Skulk catalysts allow the network to grow and repair itself by using the death of intruders as a source of energy. The more creatures enter the city and die there, the larger and more powerful the Skulk network becomes. That makes Skulk an almost perfect autonomous defense system. It does not require ordinary fuel. It does not need guards, engineers, or repair crews. It detects intruders, communicates across the city, expands through the surrounding environment, and creates the Warden when the threat becomes serious enough. Perhaps the ancient builders did not create Skulk from nothing. They may have discovered it and learned how to use it. But there is another possibility. Skulk itself could have been created as a result of their experiments with energy from the End. Its dark appearance, glowing patterns, and mysterious connections to souls may all be consequences of exposure to matter from another dimension. Within the defense system, the Warden would not be an ordinary guard. It would be a living weapon. The Warden does not constantly patrol the city. It does not stand near the treasure rooms, and it does not care whether the player steals valuable items. It appears only after the shriekers have been triggered several times, when the network decides that the intruder represents a serious threat. The Warden is incredibly strong. It can locate the targets in total darkness and kill even heavily armored players in only a few attacks. Its sonic boom can pass through walls, making it almost impossible to hide behind ordinary obstacles. These abilities do not seem designed for a fair battle. They seem designed to guarantee that anyone who remains near the central structure will either escape immediately or die. The fact that the Warden is blind may also be intentional. In a city buried deep underground, sight would not be especially useful. There is almost no natural light, and an intruder could easily hide behind walls. Vibrations, however, can travel through the floor and surrounding blocks. A creature that hunts through sound and movement is perfectly suited for guarding a huge underground facility. The Warden cannot be fooled by darkness. It does not care what the intruder looks like. It reacts to movement, sound and scent. Its purpose is simple: eliminate anyone who stays in a city long enough to threaten the portal. But if the Ender Dragon was the real danger, why is the Warden standing outside the portal instead of guarding the other side? Because the Warden may not be intended to fight the dragon. Even a creature as powerful as the Warden would probably struggle to stop the Ender Dragon in direct combat. Instead, the Warden may have been created to kill anyone capable of opening the portal. Its purpose is to stop researchers, looters and curious travelers on this side from restoring the missing pieces and reactivating the gateway. The system protects the world not only from the dragon, but also from the curiosity of its own inhabitants. As long as nobody intervenes with the frame, the portal may remain harmless. That could explain why the ancient city does not immediately attack everyone who enters it. A quiet visitor can walk through the ruins and leave without ever seeing the Warden. But someone who begins opening chests, breaking blocks, placing redstone devices and spending a long time investigating the central frame will gradually trigger a stronger response. The more vibration someone creates, the more likely it is that they are attempting to repair or activating the portal. But this theory leaves us another important question. If the portal has been sealed for thousands of years and the ancient builders are gone, who could possibly be trying to open it from the end? The answer may be connected to the Endermen. Endermen do not exist only in the end. They also appear throughout the overworld and even in the Nether, although the majority of them live on the islands of the end. They can teleport freely and carry blocks, and their choice of blocks often appears completely meaningless. An Enderman may pick up dirt, sand, clay or flour or mushroom, some other ordinary material. It carries the block for a while before placing it somewhere else. From a gameplay perspective, this seems like random behavior. But what if it is not random at all? What if Endermen are searching for materials? Their appearance in the overworld may be the part of an operation that has been continuing for thousands of years. They travel between dimensions, explore the surface and collect samples of materials that do not exist naturally in the End. The End is incredibly poor in resources. It contains endstone, obsidian, purple blocks, chorus plants and only a handful of other materials. It has no dirt, trees, sand, water, ordinary stone or most of the substances found in the overworld. If the inhabitants of the End are trying to construct something enormous, they may not have the materials required to complete it. So the Endermen travel to other dimensions and slowly bring those materials back. A single Enderman carries only one block, so the process appears insignificant to the player. But there are countless Endermen. If every one of them occasionally brings even a single block back to the End, then over hundreds of thousands of years they could collect an unimaginable amount of material. Their work only seems slow from the perspective of a human. For creatures that may not age or may not experience time in the same way as we do, a construction project lasting thousands of years would not be impossible. So what are they building? Perhaps somewhere in a distant part of the End, beyond the regions the player normally explores, the Endermen are constructing the second half of the enormous portal. The ordinary exit portal that appears after the dragon's death would not be useful for this purpose. It is far too small and may only work for creatures roughly the size of a player. To release the dragon, the Endermen would need a structure comparable in size to the frame inside the ancient city. They may even know about the original gateway because of the connection to the ancient builders. One popular Minecraft theory suggests that the Endermen were once members of the ancient civilization who became trapped in the End and slowly changed under the influence of the dimension. Even if that theory is not completely correct, the connection between Endermen and the lost civilizations is difficult to ignore. Endermen can travel between dimensions, interact with blocks and show a strange interest in the overworld. Perhaps they remember the old portal. Perhaps they know that one half of it is still buried beneath the surface, protected by the ancient city. But the question is, why would they want to release the dragon? At first, Endermen do not seem like loyal servants. They do not deliberately attack the player to protect the dragon, and the dragon can even strike them during the battle, causing them to become aggressive toward it. But this does not necessarily mean they are acting freely. The dragon may control the End through the End crystals, through some form of magic, or through the dimension itself. The Endermen may not be servants in the traditional sense. Their behavior could be influenced by the same force that created or controls the dragon. There is also another possibility. The Endermen may not realize that they are helping the dragon at all. They may be building the portal because they believe it will allow them to escape. The end looks like a dying or unfinished dimension, made of empty space and isolated islands. There is almost no food, water, or variety of life. The Endermen may have spent centuries searching for a way to return to the overworld. To do that, they need a large and stable portal connecting the two dimensions. They may be collecting materials and constructing the gateway without understanding that the first creature capable of passing through it will be the Ender Dragon. This may be why the ancient builders sealed or destroyed the overworld side of the connection. They realized that any open portal between the dimensions would become a path not only for humans and Endermen, but also for the dragon. Completely destroying the frame may have been impossible, so they surrounded it with reinforced deep slate and created a system designed to prevent anyone from activating it. This could also explain the unusual behavior of Endermen around the player. Normally they are neutral. They attack only when the player looks directly into their eyes. Perhaps eye contact is not simply an insult. An Enderman may interpret direct observation as proof that the player has noticed it or discovered what it is doing. As long as nobody pays attention, it can continue searching for materials. But when the player begins watching closely, the Enderman attempts to eliminate the witness. Their teleportation may also be connected to portal energy. Endermen constantly move through short bursts of teleportation, almost as if they partially exist between dimensions. Their bodies may be unstable, constantly touching both the end and the world around them. This allows them to enter the overworld without using a complete portal, but that method works only for creatures of their size and nature. The Ender Dragon is far too large and too physically powerful. That makes the actions of the Endermen much more dangerous than they first appear. Every block of dirt, sand or clay they carry away could be a tiny part of a portal they have been constructing for thousands of years. Players see random damage to the landscape. They may actually be witnessing the collection of materials for a massive interdimensional project. The Endermen are not in a hurry because the overworld side of a portal remains sealed. They must not only complete their own gateway, but also find a way to reactivate the structure beneath the ancient city. Perhaps the portal cannot be activated with fire or Eyes of Ender. It may require an enormous amount of energy, souls or vibrations. That could be why the Skulk is so sensitive to movement. The defense system may not be detecting only intruders, it could also be detecting energy patterns capable of affecting the portal. When a creature dies near a Skulk catalyst, its energy is converted into the new Skulk. It is almost as though the soul of the creature is stored inside the network. Perhaps the ancient builders intentionally redirected this energy away from opening the gateway and used it to strengthen the seal instead. The Skulk may be feeding on souls in order to keep the portal closed. In that case, the Warden would be more than a god. It would also be a part of the mechanism. Its body forms from the energy stored inside the Skulk. Whenever it appears, the system spends part of that stored power to eliminate a threat. When the danger is gone, the Warden burrows back underground and returns to the network. A system like this could continue working almost forever, especially if every intruder it kills becomes another source of energy. But there is a disturbing possibility. The system may be slowly breaking down. The ancient city is already in ruins. Many of its walls are damaged, its passages have collapsed, and the Skulk has spread far beyond what may have been its original boundaries. Perhaps the Skulk was never part of the original design and eventually escaped control. Or perhaps it is still performing its intended task, but it has become less accurate over time. The Warden now attacks every living creature because it can no longer tell the difference between an ordinary traveler and someone trying to open the portal. Meanwhile, the Endermen continued their work. They appear on the surface, explore different biomes and collect different kinds of blocks. Perhaps they are not searching for specific building materials. Perhaps they are collecting samples from different parts of the world. Creating an interdimensional gateway may require substances representing different environments. Dirt from the surface, sand from the desert, clay from riverbeds, plants containing living energy. The Endermen may be collecting pieces of the overworld that function like coordinates. By combining enough of them inside the End, they may be able to direct the portal toward a precise location, the ancient frame buried beneath the deep dark. This would explain why they collect such ordinary and seemingly unrelated blocks. If they were simply constructing a strong building, stone or obsidian would be far more useful. But if every block serves as a spatial sample, then strength and rarity do not matter, its origin matter. A block of dirt from a plains biome, sand from a desert, a mushroom from a swamp, and a flower from the surface could each carry a connection to a different part of the world. By gathering enough of these connections, the Endermen may eventually be able to break through the boundary between dimensions. The most frightening part is that the player may be helping them without realizing it. We locate the stronghold, we activate the end portal, we enter the dragon's dimension, we destroy the end crystals, we kill the dragon, and after its death, we open new gateways leading to the outer islands. Perhaps the dragon is unable to leave the central island while the crystals and obsidian towers remain intact. Those structures may not only heal it, they may also be part of an ancient system keeping it contained. When the player destroys the crystals, we think we are weakening a monster. But perhaps we are actually removing the locks from its prison. Even the dragon's resurrection is suspicious. The player can rebuild the end crystals, causing the towers to regenerate and the dragon to return. This means the dragon is deeply connected to the dimension itself. It is not simply an animal that happens to live in the end. The end can recreate it. Perhaps the dragon is a physical expression of the dimension's will, and perhaps its attempt to enter the overworld is not merely the desire of a single creature to escape, it may be the end itself trying to spread. If the dragon ever passes through the ancient city portal, the consequences could be far worse than a simple attack. Matter from End could begin spreading into the overworld with it. Endstone, chorus plants, and even the void may start appearing around the gateway. The landscape could break apart into isolated islands. The dragon would not merely destroy buildings, it could become the center of an expanding dimensional infection. Wherever it flies, the barrier between the worlds may become weaker. Endermen could begin appearing in enormous numbers and the overworld could slowly transform into an extension of the End. That may have been the true disaster the ancient builders were trying to prevent. They were not simply afraid of one giant monster, they were afraid of an invasion by an entire dimension. The central portal may have been the location where this invasion nearly began. The ancient city was built around it as the world's final fortress. Reinforced deep slate held the frame shut. The Skulk detected attempts to activate it, the Warden eliminated anyone who came too close, and the extreme depth of the city ensured that even if something partially emerged, it would not immediately reach the surface. Perhaps the ancient builders died during the portal's first activation. The entire dragon may not have crossed over, but some part of its energy, breath or influence could have passed through. That energy may have killed the city's inhabitants and created the Skulk. The survivors managed to shut the gateway, but the city was already lost. They left equipment, personal belongings and rare artifacts inside chests because the evacuation happened too quickly. Afterward, the entrances were abandoned and knowledge of the city's true purpose slowly disappeared. This could also explain why no clear written warning remains. If knowledge of the portal was dangerous by itself, the survivors may have intentionally destroyed all instructions. They did not want future generations to repeat their mistake. Instead of leaving a detailed explanation, they created a defense system that required no understanding. Anyone who entered the city and began investigating the central structure would eventually summon the Warden. It was a brutal solution, but from the perspective of the ancient builders, it may have been necessary. The life of one curious traveler meant nothing compared to the survival of the entire world. The most terrifying part of this theory is that the conflict may not be over. The ancient builders are gone, but their security system is still protecting the portal. The Warden still appears when someone disturbs the silence. Reinforced deep slate remains impossible to collect, and Endermen are still entering the overworld and carrying blocks away. On one side, there is an abandoned city that has kept the portal closed for thousands of years. On the other, there are countless Endermen slowly constructing another gateway and searching for a way to restore the connection. And caught between them is the player, who does not understand the true purpose of either side. We enter the ancient city, we disable the Shriekers, we destroy the Skulk, we study the frame, then we travel to the End, destroy the crystals, kill the dragon and open new gateways across its dimension. Perhaps every action we take weakens the defense that was built to protect us, and suddenly the massive frame at the center of the ancient city no longer looks like a promise of a future adventure. It is not a portal waiting for the developers to let us activate it. It is the remains of an ancient catastrophe. It was built at that enormous size because it was never intended for a human. It was built for the Ender Dragon. The ancient city is not inviting the player to open portal. It is warning them to leave it closed. The Warden does not appear because we stole treasure. It appears because the system has detected that someone is approaching the door again. The Endermen are not carrying blocks because they enjoy changing the landscape at random. They are collecting materials and spatial samples for a structure being built on the other side. And perhaps the Ender Dragon remains in the end not because it is the dragon's natural home. Perhaps the end is its prison. If the Endermen ever complete their side of the portal and someone manages to activate the frame beneath the ancient city, the two gateways may reconnect. And then the dragon will finally receive the one thing it has been missing for thousands of years, an exit large enough to leave the end. Perhaps that is why the ancient builders did not simply build a city around the portal. They built an entire world of defenses around the one door that must never be opened again.